Welcome friends of the channel, my 1998 911, aka Little Irish, here at Right Tune with Chris Wright. So my 911 is getting a new water pumper fitted today, but we're going to use this as a good opportunity to discuss all things coolant. Don't go anywhere, it's going to be more interesting than it sounds. We've got some different water pumps here from different products. We're also going to look at some of the problems that can occur with water-cooled Porsches and solutions to overcome or mitigate them with the expert. So hang around. All right then, so 1997/98 was a big moment in the history of Porsche as a company. Its sports cars ditched the concept of air cooling in favour of water cooling, of which we all know the 996 and the Boxster 986 were the first generations to adopt it. So it's these cars' fault because in the eyes of many, a lot of enthusiasts have never actually accepted these sorts of sports cars at Porsche. The reality is coolant is incredibly important. It has both a higher and lower boiling point than water and basically allows our sports cars and the temperatures of them to remain stable. So there's definitely a good idea and a worthwhile evolution over the air-cooled cars. We like them here on this channel and we think it's worthwhile having an episode today on 9wax TV dedicated to the topic. We'll start by showing you the story of how Joe is fitting this new water pumper to Little Irish. It should be a straightforward job, but as ever with these cars, it hasn't been quite as straightforward as we'd like. With lots of road trip miles ahead this year, Little Irish needs to be in tip-top condition. The water pump had shown signs of a slight coolant leak during my last visit, and I didn't want to take any chances with an afternoon on a roadside in Italy, Norway, or any other places the car and I are headed for this year. To get to the water pump, Joe had to remove the belt, and an inspection of the pulleys found the cause of a squeaking or rattling sound I'd noticed coming from the engine area on startup in recent weeks. Ever the linguist, Joe switched to Francais to deliver his verdict.
There, and that's toast. Not toast, but
Not good.
they're all fairly noisy.
Switching back to English, Joe gave the results of his findings with the water pump.
So there it is down there in the depths. I mean, this is not too bad. Normally what you can do is if you get a screwdriver, I'll show you in a minute, and get it between here and here and just give it a little bit of a wiggle. If there's any sort of play there, really, it means the bearing's sort of on its way out. Normally, if you just get a screwdriver like this and just give it a light wiggle, I mean, there's almost zero play there. So this one's in fairly good condition. Normally when they're showing signs of wear, there's a tiny bit of play there. And obviously what happens is the bearing gets worse and worse and worse. It starts rubbing against here, and then all hell breaks loose after that. So it's a good indication if there's a tiny bit of play there or anything obsessive, then you want to start changing it. This isn't that bad, but as you're doing a lot of miles and it's unknown, isn't it? If we've ever changed it, we'll just pop one on.
Why is it quite rusty?
I should imagine where water's leaked through over and just dropped down onto the pulley itself, because the rest of them are fine.
Yeah.
You haven't driven through any floods or anything, have you?
Not that I'm aware of, but...
Well, you'd be aware, wouldn't you, Lee?
Before the pump could come off, the coolant needed to come out. Not ideal, considering it was still super hot from my morning drive to Right Tune. To make matters worse, general 996 corrosion meant Little Irish was set to fight Joe all the way. Cue a morning of sparks, flames, and questionable eyewear. Progress was steadily being made, which meant Joe could put away that blowtorch. That's a lie, actually. He still needed it quite a lot. In the meantime, Chris and I took a closer look at the nuances between the 3 different water pumps assembled for me to choose from. At this point, Joe was still swearing lots and waving a blowtorch around the workshop, so we decided to stay well out of the way and indulge in some cutting-edge journalism instead. Which is why, thanks to a state-of-the-art device seen here called an Accurat 5000, we just weighed the water pumps, to be honest, while waiting for lunch. If you're interested, the first pump was the Geber at 1400 grams, then the genuine Porsche at 1360, and then the Miler at a featherlight 1311. Eventually, the water pump was out of Little Irish and looking worse for wear. More on that later, but at least Joe could put away that, oh bloody hell, he's still going. The pump was off, so what's the issue?
Where's what one is it? Bottom left?
This is sheared off here, look. That's because someone's put a bolt through from the back. It's not supposed to be like that.
Over at the departing water pump, evidence of the slight coolant leak was clear, and it also appeared a previous mechanic had used a paper gasket and generous dollops of adhesive, some of which was still stuck to the block. It was time to put the new pump on, but which one to go for?
You decided to go with this one, which is the Myler, or Meili, which is similar to the Porsche one with the plastic impeller, as opposed to the Skiba one with the metal impeller. The reason being, if the bearing does fail, the worst case scenario with this one is that it cocks and you get a coolant leak, etc. But it will break up these impellers and it will go around the coolant system and could cause a blockage. With this being metal, it can, again, not always, but it can cock over, and this will then machine itself against the crankcase, causing arguably more damage than the plastic one.
The Myler part, by the way, was sourced from Heritage Parts Centre, where the 9works 10 discount code still gets you some money off. Anyway, next step was to replace the two pulleys, which involved whipping the Ratley originals off, and oh god, that looks a bit phallic, doesn't it? Anyway, inspection of the pulleys found corrosion and knackered squeaky bearings. New pulleys on, Joe put the belt back on and tested before handing over to Chris for a natter with me. So we're going to try and make the subject of coolant as interesting as we can.
Yeah.
How problematic, straight off the bat, are
Coolant pumps on water-cooled 911s.
Yeah.
Not that bad. Having said that, it is a failure point. We changed quite a few of them. But yeah, they're not really unreliable, but it is something you need to consider. So it's something you'll always look at when you're servicing the car, looking for play or any evidence of indeed any coolant leak, you know. And with these using red antifreeze type, you might be seeing like a pink, either obviously fluid, or it might have just been misting out, and there'll be like some, well, pink dry residue in that area. So it's something that we'll look for. There's lots of different coolant pumps, but here's sort of ones we commonly use, and they all vary in quality and price. Obviously, this is a genuine Porsche one. It's about £270 plus VAT. Correct on today's date, but it could change at any time.
Yeah, but this is just as a quick aside. This is what's really good is, you know, 3 different products that will basically all do the same job, but which come in at very different price points.
Exactly.
So this is good consumer investigating on your behalf.
Yeah. So yeah, this is quickly run through. This is 270. This is about 200. This is about 120. Very similar. The Porsche part does look the better quality. Interestingly, both these is a Skiba and a Meili part. Both of the castings have got the same casting number on, so this is the same. It's just the impeller and the pulley that are slightly different. This one being metal and this being plastic, like the genuine one. However, there's 2 schools of thought. When they tend to fail, Lee, the bearings go, and what tends to happen is the pulley then will cock, and that typically causes 2 problems: a big coolant leak, and it throws the belt off. So you're going to lose your power steering, your alternator. So you might have the charge light come on. It's going to stop you getting home. You could overheat the engine if you keep going. So obviously, if you're not having the coolant being pumped around, it's going to cause a problem.
Yeah. So the good thing is, if your water pump's gone or going, you will know about it.
You should do, unless your feedback's not too good. You should be able to realise that it should be it'll probably make a horrible noise as well. Usually it throws the belt off. It doesn't always. It doesn't usually totally fail, like big time. You get some signs of it. But it can just drop off very quickly. Now, there's two schools of thought between using the plastic and the metal impeller. The plastic ones, when it fails, the fins on the impeller break up, especially when it cocks up, because it then gets pushed against like the body of the engine. They break up and then they're going around the coolant system and can cause blockages. However, on the other hand, if that fails, that could end up then machining its way through the crankcase. But at the same time, it's not going to break up and go around the coolant system, causing problems later on. You should realise it's going wrong because of the noise it's going to, but you will have some swarf. So it is. You end up with a lot of these, breaking up and going around the coolant system.
Yeah. You said off camera. You said you'd be happy fitting any of these to your own car.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would. I made the comment earlier that maybe with seeing them fail because on a more conventional end, well not more conventional, but like with a cam belt type, you tend to do a coolant pump on the cam belt service, whereas this is not like a service item where perhaps it should be. And indeed, with you, we don't have a problem. You're going to do a lot of trips this year. It's a known problem. We've pulled it off, and we've already found that there is some very slight residue of pink here, suggests that maybe it has just started to leak. And whoever fitted it previously used a paper gasket, which although it was not leaking, caused us more aggro when we were trying to change it, because obviously you've got to clean it all off, and silicone everywhere. We had to clean it off to get a good, clean surface for it to seal on. It should normally have a metal type gasket like this, not that. I don't know what's going on there, but it's wrong.
We said to Joe earlier that where like you guys have looked after this car for years now and replaced most of the parts on it, it's quite rare to come across something that you've not touched and has been bodged, because this has, whoever's done this previously has obviously got away with one clearly, and it just means that this job today is taking a lot longer.
Yeah, we had a snap bolt that we've struggled to get out, and then it just takes more time cleaning that up. It's not a major drama, but it just adds more time.
Yeah.
One bolt can cause a lot of havoc. Normally, if you have a water pump failure, you'll be changing your belt because it could stretch it and most likely damage it. In this instance, we're changing it before it's failed, so we know the mileage interval on that belt, so we know it's good to go back on. But traditionally, if you've got a failure, you'll be changing the belt as well at the same time.
Cool. I want to keep this as interesting as possible and not having the audience nod off. Have you got any jokes? Or in all seriousness, there was a company a couple of years back that were promoting like waterless coolant. Thoughts on that?
It's rubbish, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've back-to-backed it in racing, and it runs. Well, I can't say about its corrosion properties or how well it cools, but in terms of, how well it is with its anti-freeze properties.
Yeah.
But it ran hotter in the race car. When I was trying to make it run cooler, it did the opposite, and they said it should run cooler, and it didn't.
Okay.
But there are other companies that do additives that work as well, but I don't want to get involved. But some of it can, and if you're interested, give us a ring or an email. It's worth noting with the Porsches that we use the red antifreeze, or it's like a G12 plus spec, but it's really easy to get hold of. It gives you really good, antifreeze properties down to sort of, don't quote me, but -20, -30. It's typically going to last 3 to 5 years. It's got very good anti-corrosion properties for looking after the inside of your engine. In reality, I wouldn't be panicking about its antifreeze properties, because we've had cars come in with still the original antifreeze. Although it's lost a lot of its properties, it's been fine. Now, if you're in a country that's a different climate to us and you experience really extreme winters, Scandinavia, for example, or Canada, you need to be more concerned where you can hit these big figures. In England, it's not really getting much below -5, but if you've got -20 to -30, we're pretty safe.
Yeah.
But consider where you are.
Yeah, okay, grand. There's one more question. So in terms of reliability and stability, a common modification or upgrade or safeguarding measure, however you want to call it, is to fit a low temp thermostat, which we did to this a good while ago now, so we won't be doing it today, but it's worth pointing that out for viewers, maybe kind of new to the channel.
Yeah. If you're new to it, then it is a good thing you can do that's relatively cheap as well, and will hopefully safeguard particularly cylinder 5 and 6, it's thought. The 5 and 6 problem, this is with like scoring and things.
Sorry, can I just borrow something over here?
Yeah, of course. The 5 and 6 cylinder problem, you see it a lot with like cars that were like demo cars, or people who are not sympathetic and getting them and driving very hard from cold, who don't let them warm up. So we expect to see more issues with that. So it is a cooling related issue. The way the water system works, I think the cooling gets to there last.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. All right, Chris, look, thanks very much for your time and expertise. So really what you're saying is there's different water pumps available out there at different price points. None of them are really a wrong decision. Waterless coolant, possibly don't bother with.
I think that's very expensive, and from my experience and actually testing it, it didn't help us for what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, but do bang on a low temp thermostat just to give yourself boost your chances, basically.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, nice one. Thanks very much for joining us for this episode of Nineworks TV. Chris, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon.